Hey everyone,
Hi.
I'm Madonna, this is Linda, and we thought we'd do the naturopathic kinesiology thing of what makes us tick, what floats our boat.
Yeah, what that passion is about that keeps us, I guess, sitting up at night, reading, watching the massive amount of kind of video information that's coming out, from some of the leading biochemists and nutritionists in America, reading summaries of research articles.
There's so much good stuff out there. We've both got our nerdy favourites. Obviously we love Dr. Charles Krebs, Dr. Jeffrey Bland.
Yeah.
There's
Ben Lynch for me, as far as like his book on dirty genes and just looking at the priority of cleaning up your lifestyle, taking the pressure off your genes, and then what can you do from a nutritional supplement point of view to tweak your body so that you find what makes your body kind of thrive and survive.
Yeah. I had a low level years ago, probably say 20 years ago, 23, 24 years ago, I had like a low level fibromyalgia for years and years and years. And it wasn't until we found a activated and fully cleansed zeolite product that for the first time in years I wasn't waking up in pain a lot of the time throughout the night. That was one of those big chunky supplements that took us away from base level supplements that all naturopaths have, your B vitamins, magnesiums, herbs, all that sort of thing. And zeolite really quite changed our life and the lives of lots of our clients, because it was one of those things that when it's cleansed, because in nature it's toxic. It sops up dioxins, it sops up heavy metals. So if you take a non-cleansed version of zeolite, you're just putting more of toxins into your body. And that's just the way it works in nature. It sops up heavy metals and toxins. So when it's fully cleansed, all of a sudden you've got something and it's all about the charge of it. So zeolite's a really negatively charged mineral, and it sops up positively charged toxins in your body. So there's this whole thing going on where it leaves the body after 7 to 9 hours when it's neutral, which I think is quite fascinating. And it was one of those fantastic products. When was that, like 10, 12, 15 years ago?
I'd say 13.
13-ish. Yeah. Anyway, we went to New York and we heard a couple of the leading toxicologists from the world at that time, and they were talking about it and how toxicity was going to be the next massive wave causing ill health in people. And that's what we're finding. Things are getting harder to treat now than they were 20 years ago.
Yeah, and that's potentially like a big kind of why, as well as actually just seeing the big influx of autoimmunity. When we both started our careers 25 years ago, you'd see a certain amount of it, and now it's just a huge bulk of what I'm
nearly everyone these days who come to see naturopaths, because they're the people who have been trying. On average they've seen 8 to 10 specialists in 8 to 10 years and still don't have a diagnosis. Or if they've finally had a diagnosis, they've gone, well, crap. Oops. Now I've got like Hashimoto's thyroiditis, but I started out with Crohn's disease, which has finally been diagnosed. I then got, psoriasis, and so now I've got this. So once you've got one autoimmune disease, unfortunately, you're ripe. And there's now over 120 diagnosed autoimmune. It's probably more now, but it's just going up every year because there's that combination of things you need for something to be an autoimmune disease. It's a combination of inflammation, immune dysfunction, gut,
Yeah.
gut, leaky gut. So if you've got that trio going on, then something really can be caused an autoimmune disease, called an autoimmune disease.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I always say to people, if you don't really get that immune system back into harmony and regulated, you are a sitting duck. And often it's every 8 to 10 years that something's coming on. So ultimately it's having that tenacity to go, how do I get my body really well and functioning? And from that, what makes us tick? There's some products that Madonna and I really use that get right back at a genetic level, bypass your innate detoxification pathways, being really consistent with people about their lifestyle choices and certain lifestyle choices that consistently drive autoimmunity. I think we're both big lovers of the autoimmune paleo program, because as a program you can get people to Google and they can start implementing it, and then just kind of really feel their body start to take another course.
And there's lots of support. There's autoimmune paleo groups on Facebook, so you can get part of a tribe, go in and, say, this is my problem, and then people will support you. I've got a friend on Instagram, she's called Amanda, What Can You Eat? She's fantastic because she actually puts recipes on there. So she shows you that you don't have to be eating, cucumbers and dry chicken breast. It's really about living with food that makes you healthy.
Yeah, and food is for feeding your body. It's not for filling you up. And if you're really struggling with life, you really don't want to be adding foods that detract from your life force, that inflame your gut. Because we were talking about autoimmunity, there's whole processes that go on at that interface between the digestive system, nervous system and gut that stimulate whether you're going to go into sort of a T helper 1, T helper 2 dominance. And so those stimulants need to be reduced so that the harmony comes back.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I think the next big product we learnt was the stuff that increases stem cell production of the body.
Yeah.
So, obviously we've got all the usual naturopathic stuff, herbs, nutrients and that sort of thing. But I think that was the next one that really changed people's lives.
And certainly for myself, who'd had a lot of kind of
gut issues
and things,
inflammation.
And I would say by my early 30s, when I found these kind of products, I got rid of all the drivers of why I was unwell. And so for me personally, that was gluten intolerance, which was quite rife in my family. So, for people out there who kind of go, oh yeah, like I've got a big sister that you give her gluten, she'll be vomiting within half an hour, and she was vomiting spontaneously every few days for 20 years until she really cut the mustard and went gluten-free. And then I have a mother who, when for her, going gluten-free, just the fluid, weight loss, the improvement in her digestive function, with the improvement in her mental outlook. And then for me, it's got a lot to do with triggers for chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, chronic kind of constipation. So getting rid of those drivers, but then actually, how do you get your body to rebuild and repair from having been pretty semi-poisoned for 30 odd years? And that's really important, because certainly for myself, I don't want to go into an autoimmune aspect. So a lot of what we've learnt actually come from my journey of going.
Oh, absolutely. And because she's such a canary in a coal mine, everything that she does that's wrong, and she knows it's wrong, would sort of take her back, and then, it's like rebuild, and we're like, man, come on, surely you get some kudos for being good 99% of the time.
Yeah. And then now, we look at it now with some of these combinations of these cutting edge supplementations, there's just this massive stability. And then we're getting this message out to the other canaries, and I know both Madonna and I work a lot in the chronic fatigue, autoimmunity, fibromyalgia community, and it's a real relief actually
to know
an
that
arsenal.
It's just quite amazing that that the research is just, every time things got better. When we first started 23 years ago, we thought things like, I shouldn't be putting words in your mouth, but good quality magnesiums weren't the same as they are today, where, it's just gone to that next level. And certainly in Brisbane, Australia, the same guy has developed several magnesium products that each time have twice the bioavailability. So, which is pretty exciting, when he just keeps on going back to the drawing board and goes, how can I make it better? So the same sort of thing with, say, sulforaphane products.
Mm-hmm.
They're from broccoli sprouts and other bits and bobs. And this particular dude that Linda's, found at a trade stand in Melbourne a year ago has changed her life again. It's got it to that next level.
Yeah, and just experiencing outstanding results and being able to turn on these NRF2 switches, and how that then subsequently upregulates, detoxification pathways. Yeah,
because from that scientific perspective, Dr. Pamela Peake was part of a study going back, 10, 11, 12 years ago, where they had all these fat, fair, flabby mice who were born and were pretty much obese their whole life, regardless of eating the same food as everyone else, all the other mice. And then what they did, they went, gee, let's blow our minds and do nothing but... So they decided to experiment with, what can we do? Because every generation was being born, they all ended up being fat, fair, flabby. So and one of the things, the agouti mice, one of these things about the agouti mice is that they were sort of blondish, yellowish, and anyway, so then they fed them nothing but greens for a whole generation. And guess what happened? Next generation, the mice were all lean, mean, brown fighting machines.
Woohoo!
One generation. Yeah. Eating their greens.
Amazing. The epigenetic potential of eating good base green vegetables. So the thing is, when you start eating really well, as you get rid of all the crap out of your diet. I was just recently doing some lecturing in America with a acupuncturist friend of mine in New Zealand, and we talk a similar but different language. And so he kind of goes, well, the thing is, people say, I go paleo, I feel better, I do this, I feel better, I go keto, I feel better, da-da-da. And he goes, what's the consistent thing? Is people stop eating crap.
Yeah. It's the sugars, it's the grains, it's the genetically modified foods, it's the things that we know aren't good for us. Yeah. It's eating as cleanly as your budget, allows you to do.
Yeah, which can be, sack of onions, sack of carrots, I've certainly in New Zealand, there's a lot of people still that just start growing a lot of green vegetation in their garden and change their lives because they're feeding their body rather than filling it. Yeah. And it's such a big subject, but like Weston Price, who is a famous dentist who.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I still think that's probably the best naturopathic book around is Weston Price's book, where he was actually living at a period of time early last century where there was still a lot of cultures living indigenously, and he could actually go and look at their dentition and jaw structures and everything, and then see what happens as these foods came in that replace the innate diets.
Yeah.
It's a good term for it, but it's kind of like basically the crap people start eating because it's cheap and convenient.
Yeah.
And then it's what it's taking the place of. And it's taking the place of foods that are really high in fat-soluble vitamins, which is a big part of Weston Price's work. And it's taking the place of the vegetable matter that is really alkalizing, highly nutritious, and then potentially sulforaphane yielding, etc., etc. So you can't really.
You can't get past a healthy diet.
Mm.
It's nothing wrong with eating naughtily occasionally, but it's got to be that 80-20 rule or 90-10 rule or 95-5 rule, depending on you, because it comes down to your innate genetic ability to get over having a naughty weekend or to get over a bad meal. I heard Dr. Jeffrey Bland say at one of our conferences that one big fatty sugary meal, so imagine a big fat pizza and a couple of beers, one big fat bad meal can increase inflammation in your body for up to 6 weeks. So what are we doing to stop that? It's about getting into intermittent fasting. It's about getting those healthy meals. It's sort of like we often eat out at restaurants and people say, gee, you girls are eating healthily today. And you go, it's salmon and salad, it's octopus and salad, it's, these are delicious meals. Why wouldn't you choose them?
Well, yeah, and certainly for me, it's really not an option. I kind of fall off the fence.
I've got an option, but I just eat it because it's delish.
Yeah.
And I think people sort of choose, when they're out, they don't choose the good food because they think they're doing themselves a treat or something by having a big fat burger or something, whereas that's going to create inflammation in your system.
Yeah. And it's that thing because there's, people would say to me, well, how do you treat yourself if you don't go and eat a donut or something like that? I mean, there's some amazing kind of food, like yummy foods and that are gluten-free, sugar-free, that you can do. But I can also go, if I eat scallops, my body feels amazing. Yeah. And so if I kind of go, hey, it's my birthday, we're going to have some really good food or something, I might go, to the fisheries department and just have a big meal of scallops and just get my head out of the, that concept that it's only the sugary foods that can reward you, which of course we're primed up to because of opiate receptors and things, and actually go, there are things that cost kind of more than I would normally maybe spend on food that I know I love and really makes my body feel good, and that becomes your new and
I don't know whether I'm stubbornly avoiding those bliss point foods occasionally, because I know that scientists did this to us 70 years ago, 60 years ago. They deliberately put together that perfect combination of fat, sugar and salt, no, I can't say it. But you know the stuff you go to when you're in a mood and you want to go into that shop and just buy your naughty thing, those things. Built on the bliss point. Makes me angry that scientists did this to us. It does. It annoys the hell out of me. And that's the science you guys love. Sorry.
Yeah.
No, I do love science.
Yeah.
I just hate it when they say there's no science in naturopathy, which is crap, but anyway.
Well, look at the research article sitting next to my bed. People go, oh, the science, and it's like, I read science. I eat science for breakfast. Yeah. And to me, biochemistry is the science. It's the understanding of how the body works, and that's how I got my health back. Is going, how does the body detoxify? Yeah. What does it require? It's all nutritional based. Yeah. And it's all part of genetic information and the recipes you've inherited. Yeah. And that's where the answers in the science has been. I mean, I didn't have, chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia because I had a deficiency of painkillers.
No. There's not an opioid deficiency in your body.
Yeah, it's more, there's so many things that happens through fibrin build-up and how that affects the pain receptors and vascular tissue, but it's all driven by inflammation. And for me, I have some very big inflammatory triggers, and genetically some glitches with also how speedily my body can set up inflammation.
Yeah.
So hence within that genetic material, it's like, look, your body triggers really easily, but also it doesn't want to clean up particularly easily as well.
Yeah. So, is that sort of what makes us tick?
What makes us tick?
Yeah, we like finding the underlying causes, and we like finding the chunkiest supplements that get people better as fast as we can.
Because when you're a really effective practitioner, you never have to worry about having clients, because it's word of mouth, and it's so much more rewarding than having the same person turning up all the time and having to witnessing their struggle. And I think that's where we're at really now that we've been practicing kind of 20, 25 years, is that there's so much kind of in our heads that's extremely beneficial. And now, through social media and these types of channels, there are people that can tap in and go, that resonates with me, and you can change the course and the trajectory of someone's life,
we're excited to share it.
Yeah, because potentially, people are, you might have a diagnosis and things, but your long-term outcome is really looking at understanding how to unwind your health and go down a road towards health, rather than just always managing it through pharmaceutical kind of medication. And there's times when that's really relevant, but it's also really relevant to just change the course of your life as well. Then
the thought that I was just having then is that so many people are told by their doctors nothing can be done.
That's crap. It's just
crap. So often they're told this. So people are just in chronic pain, chronic inflammation. They're taking their drugs every day. They tell us, it doesn't really do anything, but I take it just in case it's doing something. We hear this every single day of the week.
And I guess this was a defining point for me as to whether I was going to become a GP or go into biochemical nutrition and naturopathy, was sitting in a GP's clinic at 15 with, them kind of going, you've probably got endometriosis and polycystic ovaries, periods from hell. I gave birth to my lovely daughter once, and on reflection I went, my teenage periods were worse than that experience. Yeah. And them just going, we can go on the contraceptive pill, which I did later in my 20s. Actually, I went on the contraceptive pill for a few months, and of course some women are just fine on it, but when your methylation pathway is ineffective, I just blew up with fluid. I had a lot of mood swings and everything with that. Yeah. And I wasn't coming back to the reason why my body had gone into those states. Whereas when I really started to study and understand what was going on, I could make adjustments and clean up different pathways. So I don't have endometriosis, I don't have polycystic ovaries. I was able to have a child really quite easily. Really, really valuable. That's my life. Yeah. Yeah, that's...
And she's a little champion. Hey, sweetie.
It's cool. It's amazing to have kids who have been brought up with parents like ours, and the things that you hear them talking to people about. Yeah. It's like, wow, you've really been listening. And they're like, that's all you talk about.
Yeah, especially when you're having a brain fog day, and then they tell you, and you go, oh yeah, right, good one. Yeah. I'll have a cup of ginger tea now. Yeah, good one.
Well, that's sort of thing.
Cool. Okay. That's another little bit of our snippets.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Have a good day.